Welcome to another episode of The Edge Outdoors. Iowa trail cameras, hot topic. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. Let's see, we are June 6th today, June 6th, and I wanted to do this from my back deck, but we are in like major winds here in northeast Iowa. There was dust storms today. There was, which is unreal with all the water that we've had, but nonetheless, there was dust storms, caused some accidents on the interstate close to home. Some trees down here in town around Reedland, Iowa. So, needless to say, we are in the garage out of the wind. So you're going to get an episode of The Edge Outdoors from the garage. All right, trail cameras. Iowa, lots been talked about lately. You've probably seen some chatter on YouTube, on message boards, forums. I didn't want to jump on immediately when I heard about this because I wanted to make sure I was plenty informed, made some phone calls, asked around, talked to some buddies, just wanted to gather as much information as I could, looked around at a lot of different areas online as well, and I'm going to break it down on how I interpret it at this moment. I believe we're going to get a full interpretation in the regulation book that usually comes out sometime in July. I'm not exactly sure on that date yet, but from what I understand, after a couple phone calls, local conservation officers are still trying to determine exactly how the cellular camera law is going to work. But one thing we know for sure right off the bat, trail cameras, regular trail cameras, much like this old school one here. I shouldn't say old school. Geez, it's got an SD card. I go back way further than that. I go back to homemade trail cameras and strings across trails and load and film, and we thought that was the biggest technology. But nonetheless, we do know for a fact that trail cameras cannot be left out overnight in public hunting areas in Iowa starting this season. I did hear that it started June 5th. I'm not sure if I completely believe that wording, because usually normal Iowa new laws start July 1st. I'm going to go off of probably July 1st on that, but don't quote me on that because I don't know for certain, but usually Iowa laws take effect July 1st of that year. We know for a fact those can't be left out overnight, so it pretty much makes trail cameras on public land useless. I mean, I guess you could put one out in the morning when you set up on a mobile spot and leave it there and come back and pull the card and pull the camera before your evening hunt, see if anything moved through, check the scrape, whatnot. But we know you can't leave them out overnight. How well that can get enforced, I don't know. I mean, I do know you leave tree stands on public land. A lot of times they have a tendency to disappear. The DNR, local conservation officers, they get a hold of them, after the seasons, putting them up before the seasons, whatnot. So I don't do a ton of hunting on public land for whitetails, but I do here and there. But that part of the law really doesn't affect me. I feel bad for friends that hunt on public, anybody that hunts on public generally, because trail cameras are such a huge part of the fun of it for me. I mean, I love checking trail cameras, getting the pictures, not of only just whitetails, but all the wildlife in general. I love getting the different types of birds that fly in front of it, the turkeys, ducks, geese, you name it. So I feel bad for, the public land hunters, because that takes away an element of their hunts. Now the cell camera deal. I've taken a lot of information that way, and the way I determine that is it's an extension of the wording of the cell phone CB transmitter radio live contact on how game is moving. So to me, when they're adding that to that part of the law that has always been around in Iowa, at least as long as I know, no use of CBs, no talking on the cell phones, telling your buddy which way, or texting which way a deer's going, whatnot. The fact that they're supposedly now tacking that onto that law, that tells me in real time. That tells me if while you're hunting and your cell cam goes off and you have it directly sent to your phone immediately. That's the way I see it right now. I don't generally do that anyway. Usually it's an update at 5 in the morning and an update at 5 p.m., which I could easily change that to one update per 24 hours and just do it at midnight. I love cell cams for surveillance. That's a big deal. And that's where it bothers me on whether or not I could have these out in the fall, because honestly, that's when I want to catch somebody, at least within the day, that got over the fence and was on the wrong side of the law there. That's one area that I'll be very curious upon. And the whole real-time deal, I mean, if somebody is hunting that way, which I'm sure there probably is people that do that and take advantage of that, and by all means it's been not against the law. So you see a picture at 10 o'clock of a deer coming down a certain trail and you head it off. I mean, I could see how that could be utilized. I have never done it that way myself. So long story short, it's going to be very interesting to see exactly how this is worded, and you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to call our local conservation officer and make sure I know for certain exactly how these can be utilized. I run the spy points. All I've got's an empty box because I've got 8 spy points out. They're all in use right now. Surveillance. I love getting summertime velvet pictures, and leading up to the fall, I'll kind of keep an eye on what bucks stick around and what bucks leave as it comes the usual shift from summer pattern to fall pattern. But generally from there, I don't get too carried away with use of cell cams during the season, because I typically fall back into my ways of hunting, bed to feed, scrapes, rub lines, the whole thing that, every piece of woodsmanship that we've all learned growing up, especially when you're my age, in your 40s. So that part won't change. And if I have to, I mean, I've only been using cell cameras now for 2 years, so and they've been around a lot longer than that. It makes my life pretty easy to not have to intrude and whatnot. But if I've got to go back to, well, I wouldn't go back to these. I'd probably still use the cell camera. I'd just disable the network and disable the app. So time is going to tell here, and as I get closer, I'm gonna let the conservation officers, I'm sure they've been taking a lot of calls, so I'm gonna let things go for a while now, and I'm gonna wait and see exactly what comes out in the regulations, how I read it, and then I'm going to, just to double check, call our local conservation officer. I have a pretty good relationship with him, so it'd be an easy phone call. Talk to him and see exactly how he determines it. And like I said, I feel like the way I'm reading this, if you can still have your cell cams out on private land and just have an update at midnight or something. It wouldn't be in real time, live time. But that's just how I'm interpreting it. Jump in the comments. Tell me how you're interpreting it when it comes to this law, what you've heard. Get some conversation going back and forth. Keep it civil. I know I'm big in the fishing world, as you can see in the background behind me as well. This channel doesn't really touch on fishing, but this is very similar to forward-facing sonar conversation, and it can get very heated, and it can get very almost like fighting about politics level. So let's keep it civil in the comments, but let's get some chatter back and forth. Tell me how you interpret it, how you see it, and I'll be certain when I make a phone call to the CO after we see it in black and white on paper what this is going to be, to relay what I know on the Edge Outdoors. So just wanted to jump on quick, put a video together for that. I've waited 5-6 days. I think it was, well, actually it'll be 7 tomorrow, since this is really showing light. It was, tomorrow's Friday, and it was last Friday that at least I caught wind of it. So all that being said, hey, if you would, like and subscribe to the channel. Never miss a thing. Food plots, habitat management, everything land management, and hunts in the fall for whitetails, bow and gun, and hunts for turkey in the spring. So like and subscribe, and until next time, get outdoors.